Hello guys, in today's video we are going to start with a new topic, colloids. In the year 1861, Thomas Graham did an experiment with the aqueous solutions of glue, gelatin, sodium chloride and sugar solution. He tried to filter these solutions through parchment membrane. What is a parchment membrane? It is nothing but the paper that we use while we bake cakes in the oven. When he tried to filter these solutions through parchment membrane, he noticed that the aqueous solution of glue and gelatin could not pass through the parchment membrane, whereas the aqueous solution of sodium chloride and sugar could pass through that membrane. So because of this behavioral difference, he named the glue and gelatin as colloids and sodium chloride and sugar as crystalloids. This property, whether this solutions can pass through parchment membrane and could not pass through parchment membrane, is an important property to differentiate between colloids and crystalloids. But this classification made by Thomas Graham was not quite satisfactory, because a particular substance may behave as a colloid or crystalloid depending upon the solvent taken. For example, if you take NaCl, it will behave as a crystalloid in aqueous solution, which means in water, but the same NaCl can behave as colloid in benzene. And the another example, soap, it behaves as a crystalloid in alcohol, but it behaves as colloid in water. So a further investigation was made to know the difference between the colloids and crystalloids. It was found that the nature of the substance, whether it is a colloid or a crystalloid, depends upon the particle size. When the size of the solute particles lies between 1 to 1000 nanometer, it behaves like a colloid. So whether a substance is a colloid or a crystalloid, it depends upon particle size. As I told, if the particle size lies between 1 to 1000 nanometer, then it behaves like a colloid. So colloid itself is not a substance, but colloid is a state of a substance which depends upon the particle size that ranges between 1 nanometer and 1000 nanometer. There are actually three different types of solutions of the substances based upon the size of the particles. They are true solution, colloidal solution and suspension. So this category classification is made depending upon the size of the particles in that solution. First, true solution is a homogeneous solution which forms a single phase, and it contains small solute particles dispersed throughout the solvent. For example, solution of sodium chloride in water. It is a very good example of true solution. The particles of a solute in a true solution are invisible even under microscope. If you take a glass of salt solution, you cannot see the salt particles dispersed in water, because these particle size are very small. It is less than 10 power minus 9 meter. And the next one is colloidal solution. It is a heterogeneous solution which contains particles of intermediate size. Just now we said the particles in colloidal solution are in this range. Just like true solution, colloidal solution particles can also be not seen with the naked eye, but it can be seen under an ultra microscope. But in the case of true solution, the particles cannot be seen even under a microscope. And the last one, suspension, is also a heterogeneous mixture just like colloids, and it contains large insoluble particles. A very good example of suspension is dirt particles in water, or you can take a little amount of chalk powder and dissolve it in water. These particles of suspension can be seen with naked eye, because the particle size are more than 10 power minus 6 meter in suspension. And an example of colloidal solution is milk. We will be seeing in detail about different colloidal solutions. So these are the three different types of solutions depending upon the size of the particles. These are the distinguishing features in the three types of solutions. true solution, colloidal solution and suspension. The first one is particle size. In true solution, the size of the particle is greater than 10 power minus 9 meter. In the case of colloidal solution, 10 power minus 6 to 10 power minus 9 meter. If it is a nanometer, you can say 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. In the case of suspension, the particle size is greater than 10 power minus 6 meter. And when you take a true solution, it looks transparent. In the case of colloidal solution, it is partially transparent, but in the case of suspension, it is opaque, which means you cannot see anything through that solution. Nature of the true solution is homogeneous, which means it forms an uniform mixture. In the case of colloidal solution, it is heterogeneous, and also suspension is heterogeneous. And the next one, ordinary filtration. When you are trying to filter this solution using an ordinary filter paper, it is not possible to filter a true solution. Same way, it is not possible to filter colloidal solution, but it is possible to filter suspension using an ordinary filter paper. You have another filter paper called ultra filter paper, in which the pore size are much smaller. In that, again, true solution is not possible to be filtered, but you can filter colloidal solution and suspension through ultrafiltration. And the last one, Tyndall effect. We will be learning about this Tyndall effect. It is a scattering of light by the particles. It is not possible with true solution, but scattering of light is possible by colloidal solution and suspension. So these are the distinguishing features of three types of solutions. And remember, these three types of solutions are classified on the basis of their particle size. Since our topic is colloids, let's move on to that topic and learn in detail about colloids. When we looked into the characteristics of a colloidal solution, we said colloidal solution is heterogeneous in nature, which means it has two phases called as dispersed phase and dispersion medium. So what is dispersed phase? It is the component present in small proportion. If you take a colloidal solution, it has two phases. The first phase is dispersed phase. It is nothing but the component present in small proportion, just like a solute in a solution. If you take a solution, how can you prepare a solution? By mixing a solute with the solvent. The dispersed phase in the colloid is like the solute in a solution, and the dispersion medium is like the solvent in the solution. So the dispersion medium, the component present in excess is the dispersion medium. So when you take a colloidal solution, it has two phases. One is the dispersed phase, the other one is the dispersion medium. Let's take the example of colloidal solution of silver in water. In that, the dispersed phase is silver, dispersion medium is water. In a colloidal solution, the substance which is dispersed is called as the dispersed phase. The medium in which the dispersed phase is dispersed is called as dispersion medium. Now we are going to see the classification of colloids based on different categories. We can classify colloids based on these three categories. First one, based on the physical state of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Whether the dispersed phase is gas or dispersion medium is liquid, whether the dispersed phase is solid or dispersion medium is also solid. Based on the physical state of the dispersed phase and dispersion medium, you can classify colloids into 8 types. And the second category, you can classify colloids based on the interaction of phases. What are the phases? We have dispersed phase and dispersion medium, and the interaction between these two phases, whether they are very strongly attracted or they don't have any attraction between them. Based on that, we can classify colloids into 2 types. And the last category is based upon molecular size. In colloids, we have 3 different molecular size: multimolecular, macromolecular and associated colloids. So based on the molecular size, we can classify colloids into 3 types. And the same way, based on the interaction, we have 2 types which we call as lyophobic colloids and lyophilic colloids. Now we will see in detail all these types of colloids with examples. So the first classification of colloidal solution is based on physical states of the phases, whether it is gaseous in gaseous phase or liquid phase. Now see, we have dispersed phase and dispersion medium, and name of the colloidal solution and example. See, when the dispersed phase is gas and the dispersion medium is liquid, then the name of the colloidal solution is foam. So gas dispersed in liquid. Examples of soda water, soap, lather. They are examples of gas dispersed in liquid. And the next one is gas in solid. Here the dispersed phase is gas and the dispersion medium is solid. Then we call the colloidal solution as solid foam. And the examples are pumice stone, rubber or bread. Pumice stone is that stone that we usually use as scrub in beauty parlors. So the next type of colloid is liquid and gas, which is called as aerosol. Examples are mist, fog, cloud and insecticide spray. When you spray the insecticide, they form aerosol, which means liquid is dispersed in gaseous medium. And the next one is liquid dispersed in liquid, and it is called as emulsion. Examples are milk, shampoos and cod liver oil, which is fish liver oil. And then liquid and solid. The name of the colloid is gel. Examples are jelly, butter, cheese and curd. The next one, solid dispersed in gas. It is also called as aerosol. We call this as liquid aerosol. This is solid aerosol. And the examples are smoke and dust storm. When there is a storm mixed with dust, then that is an example of solid aerosol. And the next one, solid dispersed in liquid. And we call them as sols. Example, muddy water, starch in H2O. Starch, when it is dispersed in water, we get solid and liquid type of colloids. And the last one, solid and solid, they are called as solid sols. And the examples are alloys, colored glass and gemstones, which we use in ornaments. All these are examples of solid and solid colloid. In this list of combination, you could see we have liquid and gas, liquid and liquid, liquid and solid. Same way, solid and gas, solid and liquid, solid and solid. But in the case of gas, we have gas and liquid and gas and solid. But we don't have gas and gas, because when we have gas and gas, they are completely miscible and they form true solution. It is no more a colloid because they are completely miscible. But in these cases, they are not completely miscible. That's the reason they are forming colloidal solution. So from this you can see there are only three categories: aerosols, liquid sols, solid sols. In the case of aerosol, the dispersion medium is gas. When the dispersion medium is gas, we call them as aerosol. See, when the dispersion medium is liquid, we call them as liquid sols, and the dispersion medium is solid, we call them as solid sols. So in the case of aerosols, it can be gas or liquid dispersed in gas. Solid or liquid dispersed in gas. In the case of liquid sols, it can be solid or gas dispersed in liquid. In the case of solid sol, it can be gas or liquid dispersed in solid. So depending upon the dispersion medium, we have three categories: aerosols, liquid sols and solid sols. So this classification of colloid depends upon the physical state of the phases. The next classification of colloidal solution is based upon the interaction between the phases, which means the dispersion medium and the dispersed phase. It is a common experience that the colloidal solutions of certain substances like starch and glue are readily prepared, but the colloidal solution of gold, silver are difficult to prepare. This is because the interaction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium are different. So based upon this, the colloids can be classified into two types: lyophilic colloids and lyophobic colloids. In lyophilic colloids, the colloidal solution in which the particles of the dispersed phase have a great affinity, which means love for the dispersion medium. Since they have so much affinity, these colloidal solutions are easily formed by the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium coming in direct contact. So you can easily prepare this type of colloids. And in the same way, if these colloids get precipitated, you should know the difference between colloids and the precipitate. Colloids, they dispersed phase is suspended in the dispersion medium. In the case of precipitate, the solute particles will settle down at the bottom. we can change this colloids into precipitate. So when this type of colloid is precipitated, you can again change them back to the colloidal form simply by adding dispersion medium. So we say these lyophilic colloids are reversible in nature, which means when they are changed into precipitate, they can again be changed into colloids. So we call lyophilic colloids as reversible in nature. And examples of these lyophilic colloids are glue, gelatin, starch, proteins and rubber. And now lyophobic colloids. So in this type of colloids, the dispersed phase particles have no affinity or love towards the dispersion medium, or you can say they have hatred towards the dispersion medium. Such type of solutions are formed with difficulty, not like lyophilic colloids, and once they are precipitated, it is difficult to change them back into lyophobic colloids. So we call these lyophobic colloids as irreversible nature, because once they are precipitated, they have little tendency to get back into the colloidal state. And examples are silver sol, gold sol, aluminum hydroxide sol and ferric hydroxide sol, and arsenious sulfide sol. So all these are examples of lyophobic colloids. So when there is affinity between the dispersed phase and the medium, then they are lyophilic colloids. When there is no affinity or when there is hatred between the dispersed phase and the medium, then they are called as lyophobic colloids. And now the last classification of colloids is based on the molecular size. So based on the molecular size, we have three types of colloids: multimolecular colloids, macromolecular colloids and associated colloids. The first one, multimolecular colloids. In multimolecular colloids, the individual particles of colloids consist of an aggregate of atoms or small molecules with molecular size less than 10 power 3 picometer. For example, we have seen for a substance to be colloidal in nature, it should have the size range from 1 to 1000 nanometer. If the particle size is not in between these range, suppose it is very less than that range, then more particles of that size will aggregate together to come to the colloidal range. So individual particles consist of aggregates of atoms or small molecules. So the individual particles in this type of multimolecular colloids consist of an aggregate of atoms or small molecules. Example, gold sol and sulfur sol. If you see in sulfur sol, it consists of particles having 8 sulfur atoms, S8. Each particle will be having 8 sulfur atoms, and that will be in colloidal range. And the next type of colloid is macromolecular colloids. Here the particles of the dispersed phase are macromolecules in the colloidal range. What are macromolecules? When you take polythene, protein, like plastics, all these are macromolecules, and in macromolecular colloids, these macromolecules are dispersed in colloidal range. Then we call that type of colloids as macromolecular colloids, and examples are polythene, nylon, polystyrene and plastics. And the last one, associated colloids. There are certain substances which behave as normal strong electrolytes at low concentration, but they behave as colloids at higher concentration. So only after a particular concentration, they aggregate and form something called micelles. After that particular concentration only, they behave as colloids, and such colloids are called as associated colloids. We will see about associated colloids in detail now. I told you there are certain substances which behave as normal strong electrolytes at low concentration. For example, Na plus Cl minus, Na plus and Cl minus, they behave as strong electrolytes and at low concentration, but they behave as colloids at higher concentration. So what happens at higher concentration? There is formation of micelle. So the formation of micelle depends upon the concentration of the dispersed phase and the temperature. I told you the formation of micelle occurs only above a particular concentration, and that concentration above which micelle formation occurs is called as critical Michel concentration, and after a particular temperature only Michel formation is possible, and that temperature is called as Kraft temperature, represented as Tk. So below Michel concentration, I mean the critical Michel concentration, they behave as ordinary normal strong electrolyte, but after attaining this Michel concentration, after the formation of Michels, they behave as colloids. Now I will show you the mechanism of Michel formation, and see the example we have taken here for associated colloids is soap. The CMC, which is critical Michel concentration for soap, ranges between 10 power minus 4 and 10 power minus 3 mole liter inverse. So below this critical Michel concentration, soap behaves as a strong electrolyte, but above this concentration it behaves as a colloid because it aggregates to form a Michel. Associated colloids are also called as Michels. Now let us try to understand the mechanism of Michel formation with the help of soap. Soaps are the sodium or potassium salts of higher fatty acids. So you can represent soap with the general formula RCOO minus Na plus. So this is the sodium salt of higher fatty acid. This part is the higher fatty acid. So we are taking an example, sodium stearate. It is an example of soap, and this is the formula for sodium stearate. CH3, CH2 16 times, COO minus Na plus, and this part is represented as R, and this as COO, and this as Na. So this is the general formula for soap. Actually, sodium stearate, it is a major constituent of most of the washing soaps. It is present in soap. It is water soluble, and in water it dissociates into these two parts, RCOO minus and Na plus, and this is the carboxylate ion, and this is the sodium ion, and this is the anion part, this is the cation part. When you take the anion part, it has two parts in that, the R and COO minus. Here this R is the alkyl group, where you would have studied about this in organic lessons. R is the alkyl group, and this is hydrophobic because the alkyl part is non-polar. Same way the other part, which is the carboxyl group, it is polar and it is hydrophilic. What is meant by hydrophobic and hydrophilic? Hydrophobic, it is water fearing, whereas hydrophilic is water loving. The water hating alkyl part forms the tail part, whereas the water loving this carboxyl part forms the head part. When you take the aqueous soap solution, the RCOO minus ions are present on the surface with COO minus groups pointing inwards, while the R group remain at the surface. When you look in water, see, I have put a small picture here. This is the tail part. So the alkyl part will be remaining on the surface, whereas the COO minus part will be pointing inwards. So this is the COO minus part, and this is the alkyl part on the surface. At CMC, which means at critical Michel concentration, what happens? The anions are pulled, aggregated in spherical shape. Before the critical Michel concentration, in the aqueous soap solution, the RCOO minus is present, where the R is present on the surface and COO minus is pointing inwards. Now what happens at critical Michel concentration? These anions are pulled into the bulk of the water, that is the solution, soap solution, and they get aggregated, resulting in a spherical shape. In that sphere, the hydrocarbon tail part, which is the R part, is pointing towards the center, while the COO minus head part is remaining outward on the surface of the sphere. This aggregate is called as Michel. See, this is the shape of the Michel. And this aggregate which is formed is called as Michel. Now I will show this explanation with some pictures. As I told you, this is sodium stearate. See, this is the alkyl part. The formula for sodium stearate, CH3 and CH2 16 times, and then you add COO minus Na, and this is the head part and this is the tail part, and this is represented here. This is the tail part, which is the alkyl part, and this is the head part. COO minus Na is the head part. Because after you put this in water, this part dissociates into this and this. Na would go out. So this part is COO and this part is the R part. So this R part is hydrophobic and this is hydrophilic. See, this is the aqueous solution of soap before reaching the CMC, which is critical Michel concentration. I told you in aqueous solution of soap, this RCOO minus part is present on the surface with COO minus groups pointing inwards, while the alkyl group is on the surface. So this is the alkyl part. After CMC, what happens? These anions are pulled inside the bulk. See what happens here. They are pulled inside the bulk of the solution and they get aggregated in a spherical shape. See, in this sphere, the hydrocarbon chain, that is the tail, points outwards, okay, towards the center, whereas the carboxyl group is on the outward surface of the sphere. So this aggregate is called as a Michel. One Michel, if you take a Michel, it normally contains 100 such ions. So these are all the ions and they are aggregated together to form a Michel. And with the help of this Michel formation, you can also explain the cleansing action of soap, how we use soap to remove dirt from our cloth. When there is oil or dirt on the cloth, this Michel formation is formed around that dirt particle. See, the dirt particle would be at the center here, with the hydrophobic R part pointing towards the oil, which means the dirt, while the COO minus, which is the hydrophilic part, is directed towards water. So the oil part or the dirt part will be at the center. And this soap is forming a Michel around the oil. And now when the cloth is washed with water, what happens? The hydrophilic part goes with the water, taking along with it the dirt also. So this explains the cleansing action of soap. So in the cleansing action of soap, what plays a role? This Michel formation plays a role. Just like soaps, detergents are also similar in their cleansing action, and they are also examples of associated colloids. So in this video we have learned about what are colloids and what are the different types of colloids and their examples. Thank you.